Hello Cancer, and welcome to your monthly horoscope for November for the Sun or the Ascendant. Now what I'm going to do is give you a broad overview of what you can expect, and then I'm diving deep and giving you a much more forensic interpretation of what to expect. So right at the start of this month, Mars, the planet of drama and passion, has just arrived in a sensational part of your situation, the 5th house. This is going to give you a big push to be much more sociable and interactive right through this month. But also, of course, the Sun is already in Scorpio, and this is your sister water sign of Scorpio, and this creates a 120 or trine angle to your sign, so it's very enabling. But this is a month which is going to see a polar axis battle between the disruptive energies of Uranus and the location of the Sun first of all, then Mercury, which joins Scorpio on the 5th, and finally Mars. They're all going face to face with Uranus at some point this month, and that can see you with some opportunities for sure, but I think it also can see a lot of supercharged energy. It's almost like a high octane month for us all, but certainly it's going to be exciting. It's not going to be dull. The other thing to tell you is that on the 5th, Venus, the planet of relating, moves into a glorious part of your situation, but it's going to be there through to the 6th of March. Now, ordinarily, Venus takes 28 days to go through each zodiac sign, so this extended stay in the sign of Capricorn, which could be very positive for relationships, is because a retrograde begins on the 19th of December. But Venus is also going to be alongside Pluto for much of December within 3 degrees, and also for some of next year. So that can point towards transformations around relationships, or transformations about how you think about relating to others. And because Uranus is a planet of disruption, and the Sun, Mercury and Mars are all in the part of your situation to do with romance, if you're in a relationship which is rather dull, predictable, and has lost its luster, this could be a month that pushes you in some way to perhaps move away from that innate desire you have for security and chase down something which is much more vital at this time for you, a sense of feeling alive and stimulated. Now please stay with me while I tell you things in greater detail, but if you are new to my channel, I'd be honoured if you would subscribe. Please click or tap on the bell notification symbol. Also, if you want to get your free written daily horoscope from me, I've been writing these for over 25 years. You can get this fired to your device each morning. Please see the subscription link beneath this video. And finally, with year 2022 racing up fast, if you want your personal forecast for next year based on your time, date and place of birth, you can order it now and get the rest of this year free, plus a character analysis, plus 30% off. Gain searing insights into your prospects ahead, but also where you can steer clear of any pitfalls. Again, please see the link below. Hello Cancer, and welcome to your monthly horoscope for November. So as you start this month, Mars is just moved into the most self-expressive and playful part of your situation. Of course, Mars can be quite impulsive, but here this gives you a more romantic dimension potentially. And of course the Sun is already in the sign of Scorpio too. Now they're going to be joined by Mercury on the 5th, so there's a lot of opportunity for you to showcase your talents this month. But just be aware that Mars is with you in your 5th house through to the 2nd week of December. So in the run up to Christmas, you may surprise yourself by how sociable that you feel, how much you want to interact with others. A lot of us have been starved, of course, from a lot of social interaction, so you may do a lot of making up if the rules and regulations in your state, territory or country, continent allow for that to happen. But on the very first day, the Sun is just shrugging off the more restrictive energies of Saturn. They were squaring up just towards the end of last month. The Sun wants you to live in the moment and enjoy pleasures, where Saturn's like that strict parent wagging its finger and saying don't forget about the financial implications of whatever you do, because the fifth house is the sector of risk taking. So we can be bolder about trying more experimental approaches when the Sun, Mars and Mercury from the fifth are all gathered together in this area. So when it comes to expenditure, Saturn's just saying, look, think about it. But the Sun and Mars particularly, they don't want to think, they want to live in the moment. And that creates a kind of desire against the resistance. And that may just show itself right at the start of this month. But of course, as I explained before, Uranus is omnipotent this month. And electric energy, it's pushing us all to seek our truth. And the sector that it's asking you to be particularly concerned with is your future, your friendships, your group alliances, and how you network with others. The 11th house is very Aquarian, and of course Uranus is the higher octave modern ruler of that sign. So you may find yourself over the next few years linking with people who in the past may not actually have been so much your cup of tea. But the key to this month is this polarity. So from the 5th, when Mercury joins with the Sun and Mars in the sign of Scorpio, that gives you 3 very influential players in terms of your drive, the Sun, your passion, Mars, and how you think and express yourself, Mercury. But before then, the Sun is electrifyingly linked to Uranus. So that could mean that you want to break free from something that's restrictive, or it can draw you towards something that's exciting. And because the new moon occurs on the 4th, the energy of Scorpio, which is ordinarily very stable because it's fixed and then just goes through very deep transformations periodically, but interlaced with very long periods of stability. I think there's something that could change for you this month in quite a radical way. Maybe it is that you're starting to think about how you want to manifest your talents and abilities and how that's going to feed into your future. But some of the desires you have now may be very different to those you've had in the past. Being much more of a free spirit is definitely going to show itself this month. So that part of you that can be very protective, very concerned with security, not just your own, those you care for, you may find yourself wanting to liberate yourself from that a little bit more and be much more orientated towards how you connect with others. But you want to connect with others through interests, passions, or perhaps play, going out, having fun. And if there is anyone around you who wants to stop that process, you may resist their resistance, if that makes sense. But then, of course, a new moon provides an opportunity to set our intentions. And if you are someone who perhaps has been quite comfortable to be in a wider group, in some kind of more established unit or organisation, I think what this month is pushing you to be is much more daring, to tear things up a little bit, to live on the edge, and it will really make your pulse race. Now, once Mercury moves on the 5th, your sense of humour can become more outward, because on the 3rd, Mercury finally reached the end of its shadow period. The retrograde finished on the 18th, it began on the 27th, but that has been in your sector of home and emotions. So I think there's been a lot of thinking, a lot of toing and throwing about exactly where you should live or how you live there. But Mercury is now much more outward facing. But also on the 5th, you have that glorious transition of Venus into the sign of Capricorn, your 7th house, where it will be to the 6th of March. This is really important. This very extended period of time could have some very important and quite radical implications for your relationships. Fruitful then, but particularly in an upcoming sense across the month of December, because Venus is going to be very close to the transformational energies of Pluto. So if you've got those two linking with any other critical points in your chart, for example, your ascendant or Saturn are in some kind of angle to Venus or your Sun, it is going to be an interesting time for you. But what that 7th house transit can do is give you the opportunity to try to achieve a greater sense of equilibrium in the relationships that really count. But it wouldn't surprise me if you had a bit of a clear out of the people that don't really satisfy you any longer. So even though you can be very nurturing and very caring, if you do have certain associations where you kind of almost know what the person's going to say before you speak to them, it's not that you're going to want to be in any conflict with them. It's just that those kind of relationships can lose the attraction to you that they may have had in the past. You're wanting people who are more unpredictable around you. And even though you may find that uncomfortable at times, you know it will push you to lead your life in a more vital way, to feel alive, not just going through the motions. Because a lot of life is to do with regularity, isn't it? We get up, we have breakfast, we go to work, we look after the children, perhaps we follow our interests, and so forth and so on. But if it all becomes too workaday and mundane, then it can become quite stupefying and we have no passion. So what you're wanting to really discover this month, and you can in spades, is an amazing sense of passion. And from the 12th to the 15th, you might have quite a sparky conversation. Someone may even, as you see it, be quite difficult, but they may have something to say which is quite refreshing, and even if you don't agree with it, it could give you food for thought in terms of their ideas. Also, week 3, Mars goes opposite Uranus. Now this is much more potentially, toxic's a strong word, but it can certainly be more destabilizing, because Mars is so much about instant gratification, and Uranus, won't broke any interference around personal freedoms. So if there's something that you want to do and in some way someone's resisting that, your desire to be all the more naughty and go and do it could be increased. So if you are someone who likes a degree of routine, who enjoys the security, you're more fitting of the archetype of Cancer, this is a month that really could be quite challenging in some ways, but it certainly won't be dull. But if you're someone who's more cardinal, you're more of a leader, you like taking chances, maybe you've got Uranus more fortified in your natal chart anyway, then this is a month that really can be turbocharged to drive through some exciting variety, stimulation and spontaneity into all sorts of streams of your situation. Now in week 2, the Sun is forging a sextile to Pluto. Pluto's about change. The Sun is about your self-expression, but you can express yourself but also connect to someone who really understands quite instinctively where you're coming from. So that can see a big transformation taking place, maybe even in a physical situation. Maybe you are going to connect to someone that you want to be close to. Also, we do have from week 2, Mars squaring with Saturn, and this is also a little bit challenging. So Mars in the 5th house, well, it's just all about, we want to really have quite a sexy time of it. I don't just mean in terms of intimacy, but we want that buzz. We want to do something that's, really revved up, and there again is Saturn, that, rather somber energy, just saying, look, don't get ahead of yourself. And that can create a sense of resistance. Now, Mars square Saturn can actually see us working very hard, getting our hands dirty, being prepared to combine your creativity with a desire to improve your financial stability. But I think you may just feel a bit of resistance at that time. Which brings us to the 19th and the full moon, which occurs in the sign of Taurus. Now that forges also a very lovely link to Pluto, but it is squaring to Jupiter in your 8th house of shared resources. Now, of course, last month, Saturn, also in this location, and Jupiter ended their retrogrades on the 11th and the 18th respectively. So I think if you have been waiting for financial news to come through, Funnily enough, I think it might emerge in the 2 weeks following this full moon. Even though Jupiter is squaring the full moon, I think it can be a portent of some positivity around your resources. Then the 22nd sees the Sun move into your sector of organisation, structure, detailing, where we need to be meticulous, where we need to try and be conscious of the purity of life. You know, it's not so sexy, where we need to provide services, make sure we get to bed on time, eat properly, be more conscious of the type of nutrition that we're consuming and so on. Now Mercury also moves into the sign of Sagittarius on the 24th. Now if you do have any appointments to attend, just be conscious that Mercury is not at its best in Sagittarius, but I actually feel that this could give you an appetite to download some information that gives you more knowledge about how to steer your welfare in a really positive way. In fact, Mercury's forging a brilliant sextile to Saturn from the 28th to the 30th. If you have a conversation with someone, you know, whether it's to do with rearranging your resources, making more of what you have, some kind of inching forwards in a very stable way can occur as this month comes to a close, which I think could be really positive for you. But also it's worth saying to you that Jupiter is in a very positive angle to Pluto for the whole of this month, a semi-sextile. So for you, Pluto's in the 7th house and Jupiter's in the 8th house. So some kind of contract, some kind of connection, a business partnership, as long as it's very clear about who does and contributes what, could develop very nicely for you as this month comes to a close. So a lot of energy this month, Cancer, a lot of challenges potentially, but it could end up being one of the most exciting months of this whole year. And in an interesting way, it could almost be like a mini me of 2022, because we're going to have 2 eclipses in Taurus and 2 in Scorpio. So this polarity between your 5th and 11th houses, this is just a taster of a lot more that's due to come for you next year.